Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, everyone. It is another edition of Magic After Dark, and the Locked On Magic pregame show is now live on the air. I apologize for running a little bit late. I needed a little bit of an Xbox break, a little bit of 2K break. So I was running a little bit late on that because I was playing a close game. But I am here in my chair, ready to go for the Orlando Magic's game against the Sacramento Kings. We're going to let people kind of filter their way into the room. But as always, if you have any questions, this is the place to ask me your questions. You can do so in the chat. I don't know which direction it is on your screen, but it is one of those two directions. It might be over there, it might be up there, it might be down there, it might be over there, it might be over there. Who knows? We'll get into it coming up here in just a moment. But first, the intro, if I can find it.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And for those of us joining live, you are indeed Locked On Magic. Tonight, the Orlando Magic take on the Sacramento Kings at 10 p.m. in what should be a very interesting game. Houston was probably the most winnable game on this road trip, but the most winnable remaining game on this road trip. No offense to the Sacramento Kings, who are having a halfway decent season. For those that are new to the game here, we have our YouTube channel. We're able to go live. We're able to stream live and talk directly to you. So this is your chance to ask me any questions and let you guide the conversation. Of course, I will talk about tonight's game against Sacramento Kings, what I'm looking for, what I'm expecting to see, and the things that I'm watching for as we get set for this game. But I want to know what you guys want and what you guys want to talk about as well as the Orlando Magic get set to play the Sacramento Kings tonight at 10 p.m. We will go right up until that 10 p.m. mark so we can all get ourselves situated to watch the Valley Sports Florida broadcast. It is, of course, a Magic After Dark special. Love our Magic After Dark games. Not enough of them on this road trip. I like these late games. They're kind of fun for me. So once again, for those joining the room, you can leave your comments and questions over in the chat box. I don't know which direction it is on your screen, but you can leave your comments and questions, and we will answer them as we get to them. Obviously, I think that the big point of emphasis in tonight's game is going to be the turnovers. I mentioned this in the podcast over the last few days. The Orlando Magic are just not a team that can beat themselves. And right now, after spending the majority of the last 3 years in the top 10 as far as turnover rate, committing the fewest turnovers in the league, and that was a big thing under Steve Clifford. The Magic are now in the bottom 5. I believe they are 26th in the league in turnover rate. So, certainly a high turnover game against Golden State, high turnover game against Houston. The Magic just not doing a great job protecting the ball at the moment. And so, again, it's not necessarily a key to a win because obviously the Magic could have beaten the Rockets with all the turnovers. But something that I would definitely keep an eye on tonight is the turnovers. Orlando cannot turn the ball over. And again, you look at the numbers. The Magic are bottom 5 in the league in turnover rate, but they're, I believe, 16th in the league in points allowed off turnovers. And some of that is their pace is low. But generally, the Magic do a decent job, limiting the harm of those turnovers. And so really, to me, the issue with the turnovers is the opportunity cost, the opportunity lost. And for a team that isn't great offensively, isn't going to score the ball a ton, losing offensive possessions really hurts. Just bottom line, it really hurts. And so the Magic just aren't able to make those up. They go through these long droughts, and that's usually where they get beat. And so when you have all these turnovers, when you have these mistakes, it's really critical. The good news is statistically, Sacramento is not a high turnover team. They're not going to force a lot of turnovers. I think they're bottom 10 in the league. They're like 18th or 19th maybe as far as opponent turnover rate. So they're not going to turn the Magic over a ton. This Kings defense, they're not as bad defensively as they were last year, but they're not a great defense either. So I think that will give the Magic a little bit of wiggle room to get in there. They do rebound the ball really well. They have Rashawn Holmes starting at center tonight. Harrison Barnes will be back in the lineup for the Kings as well. But they come off the bench with Tristan Thompson. They're a really good rebounding team, really good on the offensive glass. So there's going to be a lot of 4 factors. The 4 factors are going to really determine a lot of this game. Let's get to some of your questions again. If you want to ask a question, feel free to do so. Michael Trim Jr. asks, other than having a veteran on the floor, do you think Gary Harris should be playing more minutes than RJ? I think so. I actually do think so. I think that right now, RJ Hampton just isn't consistent enough. Again, I think RJ Hampton, look, this is not to say that RJ Hampton won't get there. And I think maybe it should be a little bit more by committee than it is. I don't think it should be hard and fast. Gary Harris is playing this many minutes per game. RJ Hampton's playing this many minutes per game, and there's no wiggle room between them. The one thing I will give Jamal Mosley a lot of credit for is he has been very flexible with his rotations. He has, his feel for how to manage a game and how to build his rotations hasn't been perfect, but when he does hit on something, he has ridden it pretty well. You think about leaving RJ Hampton in at the end of the Jazz game, huge decision, the right decision, really helped that team win. And I do think that there is room for when RJ Hampton has it going, leaving him in the game. Something that Jamal Mosley talked a lot about in the pregame today is making good decisions. Making the simple decisions, the simple plays. Again, this is not that RJ Hampton won't get there. This is not that RJ Hampton isn't doing that. RJ Hampton's had to play a lot of point guard, which I don't think is a position he's quite ready for. RJ Hampton's decision-making is inconsistent. Yes, he had a really nice game against the Warriors on Monday. I think he had 18 points in that game. He's shooting the ball really, really well. And obviously that's a huge benefit to this team, a team that's not shooting the ball well typically. But RJ Hampton also turns the ball over a lot. He had, I think, 6 turnovers in that game against the Warriors. He's a guy that's very easily sped up. He wants to play fast anyway. And so it's very, very easy to speed him up as well and kind of trap him and trap this team. And so Hampton, obviously, I think has to show that he can make better decisions, especially on the ball. Gary Harris, I think he can criticize his shot selection a little bit, but you look back at Gary Harris's last 5 games and he's starting to play the way that you expect him to play. 13 points per game. I believe he's shooting 37% from beyond the arc. His effective field goal percentage is above 60. Right now, again, as frustrating as some of his moments were in the game on Monday against the Warriors, and there were really frustrating moments that you cannot have from your veteran wing. I do think Gary Harris has earned his playing time at this point, has earned his opportunity, has provided the stability that the Magic are looking for. And those starting lineups especially are playing a lot better. So I don't think necessarily, again, I think it should be a little bit by committee. If Gary Harris is struggling, if Gary Harris doesn't have it, play RJ Hampton more. I am 100% for that. If Hampton has it and Harris is just kind of middling, play Hampton more. Absolutely, 100%. Go ahead and do that. I have no problem with that and no problem with that idea. But I do think that Harris is, I think Harris is playing a lot better than fans are giving him credit for. Again, I'm not saying Harris has had a good season by any stretch of the imagination. It just feels very much that Gary Harris has kind of become the scapegoat for a lot of other problems the Magic have. And again, that is not 100% fair to Gary. That's not 100% fair to anyone else. Go look at Terrence Ross's numbers. And I know we all love Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross is really struggling. I think he's got his worst field goal percentage since his second season, his worst 3-point percentage since his first season, I think, or the worst 3-point field goal percentage of his career, and the worst scoring he's had since his first or second season in the league. Ross is really, really struggling in a way that I think, again, you trust Ross to get himself right, just like you trusted Gary Harris to get himself right. But I think we need to be having these conversations about Terrence Ross and RJ Hampton if we're going to have them about Gary Harris. Look, every fan base, every team has a guy, a veteran usually, that they think is standing in the way of a young player. The Magic are playing all their young players. If anything, they've got still too many young players, in my opinion. Sometimes, in my opinion, someone's got to be squeezed out a little bit. Someone's, all that inconsistency is because they have so many young players. So I do think Gary Harris is a lot more valuable than people think. Again, if you're joining us for this live stream, getting ready for the Magic's game against Sacramento Kings tonight, you can leave a question in the chat. I'm here to answer your questions, preview tonight's game between the Magic and the Kings. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. Let's get another one from Michael. He says, Cole Anthony has taken a leap this season, averaging 19.66 splits. I believe he's within the 10 to 15 point guard range. But do you think Cole has all-star potential this season or next? Look, those 19.66 numbers, those are all-star numbers. Let's be really, really clear on that. He is definitely playing at an all-star level. And look, when Cole Anthony had a bad game Monday night against the Warriors, the Magic were doing their best to stay in the game. But we all knew the Magic were not winning that game unless Cole Anthony played a whole lot better than he did. And kudos to the Warriors defense. They did a good job on him. Cole Anthony is trying to be better about being a playmaker and setting others up. Perhaps waited a little bit too long, and then the game was out of reach, and it was over from there. I don't believe Cole Anthony will be an all-star this season. All-star voting did open up today. If you want to begin voting, I believe it'll be. I believe the info's on NBA.com. I don't believe Cole Anthony's going to be an all-star this year, just simply because the Magic aren't good enough quite yet. The Magic just aren't going to have the record to support an all-star, and to be an all-star on a team with the Magic's record, you got to be putting up Tracy McGrady level numbers, like 30 points, 30 points per game, just insane numbers. You got to have the fan vote behind you. And look, Cole isn't at that level yet. I do expect to see Cole at the rookie game. No reason that he shouldn't be in that rookie sophomore game at All-Star Weekend. So the Magic will be plenty represented at All-Star Weekend. Franz Wagner should be on the international team for that rookie sophomore game. So we could see Cole against Franz. And I would even still put an outside shot at Jalen Suggs getting an invite to that rookie sophomore game. I would suspect that Suggs will be able to build a little bit of a resume coming back from his injury, or hopefully he'll be able to build a little bit of a resume coming back from his injury before All-Star Weekend, before those decisions are made. But I think Cole is getting there. A lot of whether Cole can become an all-star is going to depend on him and the work that he puts in. And very clearly he will put in the work. I will not question that dude's work ethic. He really improved as a jump shooter. He really improved himself, really, took that first year, learned a lot from it, and got a whole lot better. There's no reason to think he can't continue to get better, continue to improve. I am interested to see how defenses begin to change how they play against him. And how he reacts to that. We're seeing a lot of teams switch on him on pick and rolls, and Cole, I think, struggles a lot with those switching defenses. I think teams are really figuring that out. That's how you kind of stonewall him, keep him out of the paint, force him into kind of that ISO ball that everyone criticized him for at North Carolina, instead of keeping the ball moving, keeping the ball on the attack. So switching defenses have really frustrated the Magic throughout the course of the season. Just keep an eye on that as well in this game. But can Cole become an all-star? Certainly it's possible. Again, I do think that the way Cole has started the season has transformed how the Magic play, and how the Magic has transformed how the Magic are viewing that point guard spot. Now, obviously, we got to wait for Markelle to come back. I think there's a lot to like about Jalen Suggs, and I will say this: more talent is not a bad thing. I don't care that there's a logjam at point guard right now. More talent is a good thing. You could figure it out later. Put your 5 best guys on the floor and just figure it out. We're not at the point where we need to be really worried about those things. We'll see how Cole looks with Markelle. It was something we saw a little bit of last year, but obviously not enough to really make any conclusions. And this Cole Anthony is very different from last year's Cole Anthony. So do I think Cole Anthony has all-star potential? Absolutely. I do think that there is a lot of potential in that. But I also think that it's still a little early to say whether he can get there. A lot of it's going to depend on the team. If the team surprises people, and again, we'll get into this, I think, a little bit when we start talking about the trade deadline here in the next week or so, because we're coming up on that December 15th deadline, when contracts become tradable. I do think that the Magic could be a team that's in play to just go throw some money at a guy, or take on an aging star on a big contract, and just see if they can speed up their timeline a little bit. See if they feel like they have the guys to begin sniffing around for the playoffs a little bit sooner than people think. I think Cole has certainly changed a little bit of that calculus, which, does that make him an all-star? I don't know, but he's certainly playing like one right now. Again, the team's record, the only thing keeping him from doing that. Another question here from Jay Cross. Do you think Mosley needs to diversify the offense? Seems to be a lot of DHOs and can be quite predictable. There's a few things about the offense. Yes, a lot of DHOs. Again, a lot of honestly, like I think what's different about this offense compared to the one that Steve Clifford ran, it's a lot more free flowing. This offense relies a lot less on kind of set play design and kind of motions and sets. Like Steve Clifford, they drilled those plays down, and they really kind of had plays specifically to get guys open and again, it's not that this Magic team doesn't have that, but their offense was very, very controlled and very, very kind of set in its ways. This offense, I think, is a lot more read based. It's a lot more read based. I feel like there's a lot more freedom for the ball handler, the passer to make decisions and to kind of go on to the next iteration of the offense. And in some respects, I really like that. I really respect that. Empower the players, empower these young guys to make decisions, to figure out their way through this offense. You have your set structures, you have some structure, but it's really about the players making the reads and making those decisions. However, with young teams, with teams without kind of dynamic scorers, you see the results. You see how much it would struggle. So I do think that the Magic could use maybe a little bit more structure, a little bit more kind of just kind of set offense, set reads instead of kind of this more free flowing offense. I will say this. I do think the Magic are doing a better job getting more modern offensive looks. Their corner threes are way up this year. The Magic did a really poor job on corner threes last year. Their corner threes are way up this year. And even though they're not hitting them at the great percentage, the fact that we're seeing, Mo Bamba flare out to the corner three, RJ Hampton in the corner, Gary Harris in the corner, the fact that those opportunities are there tells me that the offense is being kind of designed as a more modern offense to get the shots that are generally thought of to be a more modern offense. And I think, again, it's not being executed well right now. It's a lot of young players. Trusting young players to make decisions is usually a bad idea. I like that he's empowering these players. I like that he's kind of giving them the space to make the reads, to do what they're comfortable with, to make plays on the ball. I like all that. I think that will ultimately pay dividends down the road when a lot more things click, when they get Markelle Fultz back, who is really good at making reads. Again, when they get more talented, I think that's going to pay off. But right now, obviously, it's a little bit of a struggle. And I think there's obviously a lot of habits built up on some of these guys and the way that they used to run their offense and the way that they used to run things. And again, part of that might be why Terrence Ross is struggling a little bit too. There's less kind of design plays to get him open, to get him shots, and more make a read, make a play type offense, and then get the ball moving. Again, you're using reads to make plays and to get the ball, kind of hopping around the perimeter. And again, I think that's why Cole Anthony is really succeeding in this offense, because he is handed the ball and allowed to kind of make plays and to kind of probe the defense and find his way and make reads in what the team is trying to do. We are about 10 minutes to 10 o'clock. We'll go until around 10 o'clock here. Tip-off is scheduled for around 10:10, so I'll need to be in my seat there for that. So again, if you are watching today's pregame show, be sure to leave a question in the chat. I'm here answering questions and talking about tonight's game between the Orlando Magic and the Sacramento Kings. Nicholas here jumping in with the question, most underrated Magic player in your opinion? I am very contrarian on this. I continue to be a Gary Harris guy. I think Magic fans Magic fans have put a lot of blame on Gary Harris. Again, not saying he's had a good year by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he's playing a lot better than people give him credit for, especially the last 4 or 5 games. So I am definitely sticking a little bit with I was saying I do think the Magic are right to kind of stick with him in what they're doing, but I'll go with a different answer. I want to go with some of the young guys here. As much as everyone really loves Wendell Carter, and everyone's super excited about Wendell Carter, his contract feels like a steal. I still think he's really underrated. I have been so impressed with Wendell Carter. Again, if anything, I agree with the criticisms. I agree with the notion that the Magic need more from him. The Magic need to get him more involved, find ways to get him in the offense a whole lot more. I think that would be absolutely huge for this team and something that the Magic absolutely have to do. The fact that Wendell Carter is barely averaging 10 field goal attempts per game to me seems heinous, because essentially any lineup with Cole Anthony, Franz Wagner, and Wendell Carter is a good lineup. Those three guys work really well together, and a lot of it's just because they do their roles really, really well. Wendell Carter has been so good defensively, both as a 4 and a 5. He's been a great kind of rim and lane protector. You all remember I used to call Nikola Vucevic a lane protector, not a rim protector, because he was really good at kind of walling off the lane and really defending shots within the paint. Wendell Carter, to me, is a guy that does that really well. He can block a shot when you give it to him. He can get out on the perimeter. We talked a lot about Mo Bamba being a potential kind of perimeter switching defender. Wendell Carter is that. He really does a good job kind of blowing up pick and rolls. And he's not Dwight Howard good at that, obviously, but he's been really good at, certainly the best center the Magic have had defensively like that since Dwight. I think his offense is a lot better. The fact that he has grown that 3-point shot, that he's confident in that 3-point shot. Again, I think Wendell Carter, he says it himself a lot. He's got to be more consistent. He's got to bring the same energy, the same intensity to every game. He's got to be willing to shoot and be aggressive too. That's obviously still a big thing for him. That was the criticism for him in Chicago, was that he just wasn't aggressive enough, that he kind of got into a shell a little bit. He lost some confidence. The coaching changes didn't help him. Again, I got to give credit to Jamal Mosley here. Mosley's done a really good job empowering these players. As much as I think a little bit more control would probably help this team with winning and kind of grow this group, you also have to take a step back and remember this group not necessarily isn't the goal. This is about development. This is about making players better, giving them confidence, putting them in situations where they can grow and develop and learn. He has done that with Cole Anthony. Honestly, he's done that with Jalen Suggs. I think Jalen Suggs has made some tremendous strides as well. He's done that with Mo Bamba. He's done that with RJ Hampton. He's done that with Wendell Carter. I do think Jamal Mosley deserves a lot of credit for the way that he has empowered so many of these players to begin to unlock their potential and take those important next steps in their careers. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say that Jamal Mosley's been the perfect coach. There's certainly a lot that I think he could improve on. I think the Magic have lost some games that they probably could have and should have won because of the way Mosley's managed games. And I think that's something that he's still learning and still getting a feel for. He's a rookie coach too. He's going to make rookie coach mistakes. But I do think that he has done a lot of things well too. And I do think that, we're seeing him empowering players, seeing them, kind of deal with situations and continue to improve. When he begins to tighten those screws, when he begins to kind of really implement what he wants to do with a more veteran team, perhaps, I think we will continue to see things really things continue to go well. So again, the Magic's record obviously is not fantastic this year. Again, I'm a big record guy. I'm a big game guy. These games matter. I'm still a little disappointed with how non-competitive the team is. A lot of that has to do with injuries. A lot of that has to do with depth. Once the Magic get Jonathan Isaac, once the Magic get Markelle Fultz back in the lineup, they'll have two, again, starter caliber players. They'll be coming off injury, but starter caliber players coming off their bench or in their rotation again. That's going to make this team significantly better. So I do think that is I do think that is something to look at as well. Again, a good note here from our friend Luis Medina. Is it just me, or does every time RJ shoots from three, it looks like it's going in? They need to get him more looks at the three and stop having him trying to do so much with the ball every time. Good observation, Lewis. RJ Hampton's actually shooting around 39-40% from three this year. He has been a really reliable 3-point shooter for this team. He's been really, really good. Kudos to the work that he's done. He said he put in the work with Mike Miller this offseason, once again, to continue to get better as a 3-point shooter. He's been really good as a 3-point shooter. It's not just you, Lewis. That is a good observation. The numbers back you up that he is shooting the ball significantly better and becoming a real weapon from beyond the arc. Again, I said this the other day. one of the big keys to this season, just one of the goals for this season, is can we see the outlines of who this team wants to be? Again, can we see what this team is going to look like, how they're going to play, what they're going to try and do when they are ready to compete and when they are ready to play meaningful basketball, to play playoff level basketball. We're a quarter of the way through the season. I think it's still very, very dark. It's still a little bit faint, but I do think we are seeing some of those shades as well. I think we are seeing, a lot of guys show a lot of promise. And again, it's a lot of individual players playing really, really well. Now it's about, again, in the next quarter of the season, maybe more toward the end of the season, once Isaac and Fultz are back in the fold, once Suggs is back in the fold, it's about figuring out how to bring all those individuals together, meshing those talents. And again, if some of those talents don't mesh, moving on from them to bring in talent, to bring in players that will support the guys that you want and put them in the best positions to be the players that Jamal Mosley is clearly empowering them to be. We are coming up here on 10 o'clock. We're about 9:58 or so. So we'll begin to wrap up as the Magic gets set to take on the Sacramento Kings tonight at 10 p.m. So in a couple minutes here. In tonight's game, again, turnovers are the first big thing that I am watching. The next big thing is how the Magic defend De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox has always been a thorn in the side for the Orlando Magic. But you look at the numbers, Cole Anthony's numbers look a whole lot better than De'Aaron Fox's right now, or at least comparable to them. So I do think that point guard matchup between the two is going to be very, 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 very interesting. We'll see if Cole Anthony can take on the defensive challenge defending De'Aaron Fox, with Gary Harris likely guarding Tyrese Halliburton as well. And then again, just a big thing is watch the rebounding. Sacramento is a very good rebounding team. If the Magic are going to win this game, they've got to make sure they lock the glass down, limit Sacramento to one shot, obviously defend a little bit. Sacramento's defense is still not great. It's not that it's bad. It's not as bad as it was last year, but it's not great. So Orlando should have a little bit of a window to potentially score some points and stay in this game. I think this is going to be a really good game. I think this is going to be a really competitive game. Orlando has responded decently well to some of their blowout losses before. Golden State's its own animal. This will be a better test for the Orlando Magic to see where they're at on this road trip before they head to Los Angeles for a pair of games this weekend. We are now at 10 o'clock. I want to thank everyone again for joining us for today's pregame show as the Orlando Magic gets set to take on the Sacramento Kings. We'll be back later on with an episode of Locked On Magic that'll be in your inboxes in the morning. I may record it tonight before I go to bed. But you can always subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, all the fun places to download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can also find us on YouTube. If you're not subscribed already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can get full episodes plus great exclusive content like this pregame show on our YouTube channel. Our goal is to get to 300 subscribers by Christmas. I think we're at 242 at the moment. Who's going to be 243? Who's going to be 244? Who's going to be 245? I see some of you in the room. Make it happen. We appreciate, of course, everyone following and listening to the podcast as well. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at @OMagicDaily throughout the course of the game. I will be live tweeting game, getting set for tonight's tip-off. And, of course, you can follow me at PhilipRR_OMD as well. Enjoy the game, everyone. The Orlando Magic taking on the Sacramento Kings. We will see you next time here on Locked On Magic.